wanted to watch it live. Of course, as always, this will be uploaded on YouTube. But Lunatic Eye number 2, BSJ. This was a very interesting series. The series actually ends up going to Lunatic Eye number 2, and I'll be linking the VoD to this in YouTube down below so you can find it. But Lunatic Eye ends up taking it in 3 games. But there's this middle section here where BSJ really has 2 strong maps in a row. And specifically it was Horizon Zero Colony and it was Junkertown. So I thought it'd be pretty cool to review new maps because we really don't get to see them at all on the Western scene, considering they're not really played. And then on top of that, I thought it would be interesting to show you guys a lot of the new footage, especially considering how powerful. Of course, everyone kind of knows Mercy is super good, but the biggest thing to talk about, of course, is also Widow, which is something that we're going to get into when we get into this review. So without further ado, we'll go ahead and get started. Again, this is going to be a review of Lunatic High number 2 versus BSJ. This was in the Apex Challenger Season 5. This match happened on this September 27th, so it was pretty recent. And it happened on new patch. If you guys need me to adjust the audio at all, I will try. I want to make sure that we have some game noises so that you guys can, of course, hear what's going on. But the first thing I want to talk about is the attack that comes out of BSJ. It's pretty straightforward, especially considering that Widow is already meta, especially on a lot of like 2CP maps where she can get the sight lines that she wants. I wouldn't say that she's meta in the sense of her being like always picked, but she is definitely a hero that fits within maps and certain compositions really well, and there's like no reason not to pick her. But the biggest thing about this map is, I'm going to go ahead and pause it right here. This sightline in main is oppressive to deal with as the offense. So what ends up happening a lot of times, and this happens at any ranked game or at any competitive level, right, is you have a main choke. And that main choke kind of has one door that leads off to the right, but that leads to a stairwell that goes to a choke. And the third option is you go outside in space. And space is just never a viable or reliable option because you're always risking getting booped, you're risking not hearing somebody. There's just a lot of issues with going into space as far as consistency goes. So you look to go main, right? You have this choke where it's wide open everywhere else for the defense to set up and get spam angles. And if they get these spam angles, they're able to just tear people apart. And it's really awkward for the offense to be able to bridge this gap between this choke and where they need to get on point. So generally speaking, the common strategy, or like the default that everyone would do if no one said anything, is generally you're going to push right and go up those stairs, because if you can get control of the high ground above point, it gives you a myriad of choices, right? You can drop down, go right side, you can drop down in front with like Genji, Tracer, blink in, dash in, stuff like that, and then on top of that you can do left side, because you can go across the catwalk above the point and you can make your decisions, right? But what BSJ is going to do, and this is just, again, the power of the Widow, is if you have a Widow who's set up in the sightline and they don't have one, they don't have a distance check on her, meaning they have to close distance to actually take care of the threat, then you're going to be able to get in for free, at least comparatively to a world where you didn't have this kind of long-range damage. And so both of the maps that I'm going to be talking about, I really want to highlight innovation on his Widow, but in general, just how oppressive and powerful Widow can be, because Bunny is going to do something pretty big on the next map with him. But yeah, so again, they don't really go to the right side too much, right? They use a lot of their mobility. They got the Winston, the Diva up onto the top left. Mercy's able to follow. Lucio can pretty much do what he wants. Tracer is always roaming on her own for the most part as it stands, so it comes down to, what are you going to do with your 6th hero? And generally speaking, people will pick up a Genji because they want to add that extra dive. But if you have a Widow right now, the entire time that this fight is going on, the defense has to be mindful of the sightlines that occur, right? So you can't fight right here in this main. You can't fight off to the far left and right side because you get picked by Widow, which gives BSJ a positional advantage to be able to say, if we get full control of point, right, we force them into our Widow sightline. And so it puts a very clear double bind in their field to play, right? If we get to where we want to be, then Widow is going to have the sightlines that she wants. And if we don't get there, then we just need to play it slow and pressure where they can hide so that they're forced into our Widow sightlines. So they do a really good job with this, again. And they're pretty much going to snowball this point really quickly. And again, BSJ, it's not a very complicated or like, wow, this is innovative and crazy and new. But again, it's just this patch. The power of Mercy right now is that she has almost more res capabilities in some sense, because of the way Valkyrie works. She can get off, like 3 or 4 reses, not a full team, right? But she can sustain that whole team. She can damage amp that whole team. She can potentially finish off targets herself. So there's always also a target that the Mercy can jump back to. So there's a lot of internal synergy, it feels like, between a partial dive comp, meaning like Winston, D.Va, Tracer, with a Widow when having a Mercy, right? Because you can go back and forth. You have easy jump targets. Xavier ends up missing that bomb, unfortunately, but they do end up winning this fight, if I recall correctly. It's a pretty fast execute. Yeah. What ends up happening here is they're going to use the Visor. Visor's going to get very well negated. I got to give credit to most of BSG and their comms. They're going to end up getting the trance off right as it goes out. Visor's going to get very little value. Innovation's going to get a pick, and then they're going to be able to clean this up. Yeah, see, here it is. Or not trance, sorry, beat. I apologize, beat. Trance was from the defense. But Innovation gets the pick, Flash is taken out by the Tracer, and at this point you're in a very, very bad position as the defense. You're in a stagger reset situation, Mercy keeping alive the D.Va mech, which is very clutch, because if the D.Va gets demech there, it becomes a really easy target to kill. Flash goes in for a res, but there's not much you can do at this point. You've lost full control of point. And again, a lot of this comes down to just the pressure from the Widow. And also let me know if the audio is balanced. I know Korean casters love to get very excited about things. It's pretty awesome. But again, you just have to put yourself in the defensive position this entire time, right? They're kind of playing back. They try to posture forward a little bit, especially on second there. Oops. We'll go ahead and skip forward a little bit. But you try to pressure back, or pressure forward to kind of gain a little bit of space, and then fall back and do some damage, right? But the thing is that entire time you were checked by a Widow. And as long as you were checked by a Widow, then the offensive side is able to pretty much move freely as they want. So BSJ is going to apply this same logic, kind of the same logic, to their defense. The Orisa is Orisa. I don't really think it's honestly that exciting. Like, I do honestly still feel like at the higher levels you want to be running Orion over Orisa. But BSJ ends up pulling this off pretty well. So the big thing that I wanted to highlight from their defense is, and this is definitely something you can do in your pug games, is it's a pretty common setup overall. But the spam potential from this composition is terrifying, right? And so you have damage boosted Junkrat, you have Orisa spamming with projectiles that fly faster now, and you also have a Widow who's going to be holding the sight lines for the exact reason that I just talked about on the offense of BSJ. If the Widow is there to check the defense consistently, then there's no positions that they can hold that allow them to spam and get ults and to be able to assert positions, because they constantly have to think about Widow sight lines, getting picked, and what that could mean, and if they can even get on the Widow. So if they can't get on the Widow this entire time, you're just getting that pick generation. So first mistake that Lunatic High makes, and again, I talked about how the default in this situation is to go through this left door, but if you look at the setup, right, the main, checked by a Widow, checked by a Junkrat, checked by a Orisa spam. If they do anything cheeky to go up onto the top right, like BSJ did with the D.Va Winston jumping and the Mercy following, D.Va's right there, ready to boop and knock him off. Torbjorn playing, I don't necessarily agree with that position particularly. He's probably just rotating between his turret and D.Va, or rotating between the shield and his turret. But the point of having the turret there is so that they have this angle of, I guess I can't really show you, but like this angle, if you draw a line across the left from the turret to that choke point up the stairs. Lunatic High is going to go up the stairs, and they're just going to get absolutely eviscerated. Because what do, right? You're expecting to use 2 seconds of Defense Matrix to avoid how much incoming damage? It's like something probably like 250 damage per second when you count in the fact that either the Mercy or either the Widow or the Junkrat can be boosted. And see, they kind of just get stalled up here. And look, they want to go, but like, what do? Yeah, there's some Defense Matrix, but there goes the soldier, and then you just pull them back with the Orisa, pick them apart. So 1 minute wasted. This is immediately where when I was watching this VoD, I had to question a bit what Lunatic High is doing. One, they switched to a Sombra, and I don't think that this is at all responsive to the situation. Sombra is all about engaging, right? But the thing is that they're dealing with a high amount of spam, and if they're going to pick up a Sombra, then they need to increase the efficiency of their engaging, and they also need to increase the effectiveness of it. Their idea is that we're going to take a bunch of spam and we're going to build these ults, right? But what mega do you use is the question that I ask, right? Because the only mega that they go for is the one below Xavier right now, the one in that mega room. And it's very ineffective to go back, or it's very ineffective to get in there and get set up in that mega when I just talked about all the spam that's coming out, right? And on top of that, innovation could just rotate wide right to where well play just was, or where the Junkrat is, and can get a perfect side angle to be able to pick them. So in this situation, I think one of the best answers is just a Widow. And there is a very high probability that this upcoming week in Contenders, it's going to be a lot of Widow Mercy meta. And I wouldn't expect to see a lack of Widow in the tournament. Obviously, there's going to be a lot of Mercy. I think pretty much everyone can agree right now Mercy is really strong. But Widow just offers a lot in this current meta because it's harder to run dive tanks since they're not as easily sustained. D.Va being kind of more squishy than she is makes it kind of awkward for her to actually check a Widow now. And even if you run Genji Tracer Widow or Genji Tracer Winston D.Va, it's still going to be hard to be able to get on to even like this kind of setup, but even a standard setup with a Tracer, a Winston. The EU is coming up this week, though, I believe, the face. Thank you for stopping by. Really appreciate that. I believe the EU is coming up this weekend, though. It starts very soon. But yeah, so basically this offense right now, this is like the one decent attempt they get. And I should probably go back. I apologize for missing it and talking about it. But they do get their EMP engage, right? But the thing is like, it's so hard for them to... oh, it's all on... Yeah, oh yeah, you're right. Sorry, it's BlizzCon. It's BlizzCon that's going to be on the new patch. You're correct. I keep wanting to see the new patch a bit, but... Anyways, they get the EMP... They engage aggressively, but it's hard to get the entire team up here, right? Because, like, one, the soldier's stuck down here at an awkward spam angle. Two, they have the ability to spread very quickly. Widow's actually a pretty mobile character on the current patch. Junkrat, pretty mobile as well, of course, with double Junkrat mine. And then the Molten Core doesn't get hit by the EMP. So it's just a situation where it's like, yeah, you got your EMP, you did what you needed to do, but it doesn't amount to much because how do you follow up? Right? If they all spread from your EMP and then they pick you apart from the sides, which is basically what they did, then what do you do? So again, the way I see this end up working on the current patch is you're going to have to run either hyper-aggressive compositions, which is basically what Lunatic High right now is running, but then you're not running a Mercy, or you're going to be looking at running your own Widow, because Widow checks Widow incredibly effectively. It's just the nature of snipers, right? It's hard to check a sniper besides getting in her face, but if you have a sniper to check a sniper, you can work with a lot more aspects of your team to keep her back off her sight lines, abuse your Widow's sight lines, etc. So, Lunatic Eye ends up getting full held here. Pretty bad for them. But again, this is the Diamond Slaying comp, as it's probably been named before. The almost the Holy Trinity, as Golden Boy would say. But Lunatic Eye does end up losing this map. And again, they were up 2-0 in the series. They still are technically up 2-0 in the series. And they will end up winning the series. But these two middle maps, it's almost as if BSJ had practiced these maps more than other maps. Or at least practiced them more in comparison to their competition. Because their strategies, both for offense and defense, executions were very simple. It's not like their positionings or their plays were anything super... innovative or brand new or anything like that, but it came down to incredibly solid understanding of what they needed to do on both sides. Specifically on offense, abusing the Widow sightlines, and then on defense, abusing their spam effectiveness. Like, who cares if they get EMP if they can't do anything about it? Yeah. Well, what can you say? Can you say? The lazy life. It's been like a month and a half since I've gotten my haircut. It feels bad, man. Plus, it's almost winter, and like short hair in winter sucks because it's cold and your head gets cold. But if you have longer hair, it's like it's more bearable. So Junkertown, same thing as what I was talking about on the previous map. This map is a Widow like paradise. The first point is almost perfectly set up for a defensive Widow to be able to abuse sightlines, to be able to get picks, and to be able to pressure the offense into forcing main pushes only. Because if they flank out consistently, there's no bridge from the flank or bridge. Sorry, there's no direction that you can go from the flank. Like, take this image for instance. If the Widow's set up on the far left of the Junkertown side and you go for the far right flank, it's a wide open field in between you and the Widow. So there's a lot of space to disengage. Here we go, much better, right? You can just see right now that this space is perfect to be able to see flankers incoming, to be able to get picks, down a corridor, specifically playing these cars right here in front of the camera. You're going to push up Bunny a bit farther up right there at that wooden wall because it's a good angle to go ahead and get picks. But yeah, this is a very, very strong map for Widow. And again, BSG is going to do a very good job with it. They honestly have a pretty shaky first point, I'll be honest, but Bunny plays amazingly. This is kind of just like, if you want to watch and get better at Widow, this series itself is actually just a great series to kind of watch how both Innovation and Bunny play Widow, because both of them play it slightly differently. I feel like Bunny is a bit more of an aggressive Widow, positioning at least wise, and also just the way he asserts, the way he plays the game, whereas Innovation seems like a much more patient and calculated Widow, holding critical angles and constantly making sure that if anyone does peek set angles, right, they get punished immediately. But Bunny here playing a much more aggressive angle, does do so because of the Orisa barrier. But so this point already, right? I can also already tell you that this point is never going to be good for tanks, at least in the current iteration of the game. There's no way for tanks to be able to bridge all this spacing between the level 1 to level 2 high ground through this choke, and then you get out into this huge open area and you can just get spread and picked apart. Death Ball might work, maybe, but I still feel like you would just get surrounded and picked apart. So you really want to look at going for dive comps here. So Xavio, good pick here. That's what you need to do. That's pretty much one of the few answers, besides, of course, running your own Widow, right? Which is what Innovation's doing. Innovation's trying to check Bunny right now, putting pressure. Both Widows have to respect each other's counterpart. If they don't, they're going to get picked. It's going to go poorly. Quality seems to be dropping. Bunny, that was just insane pick. If I remember right, he does also get the Mercy, but I don't know. He just hits a huge shot on this Winston. That's right, yeah. Winston tries to jump him, gets full charge shot in the head. Second headshot. Yeah, Bunny just pops off right here. This is a show right here. Bunny is a really good Widow. And these are challenger teams, right? So these are not premier Apex teams. They're very strong still. I also chose this series, I'm not going to lie, for the fact that there are 3 players in it that have StarCraft 2 names. Bunny from Liquid, Innovation, of course, and Flash. All 3 amazing. So, I don't know if Bunny's still on Team Liquid, but EU Terran for the win. So, again, back to this idea. Widow, sightlines. It's constantly coming up throughout this. What do you do as the dive team in this situation? You need to get a full spread and surround and a precise engage. So the big thing about dive that makes it so complicated and hard to play, right, is if you look at this position right here, you have to both be able to maybe get out here left. That it might be too difficult because of Bunny's sightline, but you need to be able to both have a target engaging from main, having a target engaged from right or left, and you need to be able to spread so that they can't shoot one area and funnel you in. That other part of that is that it needs to happen simultaneously. If it doesn't, then what you get is a stagger, right? So Winston jumps in, he goes down immediately because D.Va was literally 1 second behind him. And if D.Va had wasted her defense matrix, which it looks like she had because you didn't use it going in, then you can't save your Winston. Your Winston goes down, you go down. And so the amount of precision required to execute dive when you're up against this kind of position, let alone when they drop a supercharger and are hitting like trucks, but it turns into a onus on the offense or the diving team to be clean and precise. If it doesn't happen, then again, you just saw it. Winston dies, and not half a second later, D.Va's there ready to fight. And that's all it takes in a high-level game in most esports, but definitely in Overwatch and first-person shooters, and especially when you're dealing with a Mercy-boosted Widow. So D.Va Bomb here sets them up, gets the kill on the Mercy, means they're not going to be able to have any reses. You notice Bunny right now is playing a super defensive sight line because you know if he overpeaks, Innovation's going to clean him up, and the Winston forces that. D.Va Bomb catches out both the Genji and the Mercy, and they go ahead and push forward. Hey, Doom Bros, how's it going? Thanks for stopping by, man. So again, dive's probably the only way to take this first point. Is it easy? No. Is it fun? No. But against this kind of setup, you're not going to be able to run Death Ball. You're not going to be able to run any other like weird Fair Mercy comp because, of course, they have a Widow. And so you're probably going to have to run your own kind of Widow with a dive. And that allows you to at least symmetrically deal with their Widow's sightlines while having the asymmetrical counter of closing distance with your dive setup. Right now, I'm trialing for Overwatch League teams, and I am applying to Blizzard for a casting analyst position. That's why I'm doing these videos. I'm going to be uploading this one to YouTube as well, and I'm going to be referencing, I think this one, most likely on my application. We'll see. But yeah, I'm trialing for a few teams for Overwatch League and trying to get in for casting as well. So we'll see. There should be a few opportunities, but time will tell. Yeah, thanks, man. I hope so too, but really appreciate it. It would be quite an awesome dream come true. So at this point, I really do like the hog switch. Personally, I think that this entire point is just a hog paradise. I mean, it should be because it's his hometown. But the way that there's a central connector in the middle of the map allows Roadhog to move into multiple locations at once. He doesn't end up getting that much value, and they end up snowballing through a fair bit, if I recall. Because Innovation gets those picks. Another Diva Bomb does a huge amount of damage. And Diva Bomb is just a great answer to the Mercy situation as well, right? Because if Mercy's dashing in to go for reses and Mercy has to put her body in a weird spot to be able to get the plays that she needs, Diva Bomb is always going to check that very cleanly. But again, the architecture of this is it's a giant U with a connector through the center, right? And if you think about what Roadhog does and what Roadhog wants, his best map before this was probably Gibraltar first. Because there are so many ways for him to take a flank and reassert or reset back to main safely, or go from main into a flank, right? You have that IT room or server room or whatever you want to call it with the Mega. You have that left side mini that goes up the stairs to the high ground bridge in Gibraltar is what I'm talking about. Or you have the stairs that go down and then you can get under into car wash, right? So there's choices and you can blend those choices together to set up fluid plays so that you can constantly be flanking, you can constantly be threatening hooks, and you can constantly be being able to get back to your team and survive. Same thing here. Again, unfortunately, fight does not go that way. But again, Roadhog should work out pretty damn well here. Honestly, I feel like the same thing is remotely true with Eichenwald Castle. Because the thing about Roadhog and Eichenwald Castle is it's very hard to get him out of it. You have to send multiple into the castle to kill him, but he's a Roadhog. So Innovation's going to be playing very aggressive here and greedy, and I like this a lot. They're in a snowball situation, and I really honestly, when I did my map review of this map, I didn't really think nearly at all about the impact that could be had from a Widow who gets an aggressive snowball and is able to set up in this door, right? Like, look at the defense right now. They're so scared. And the thing is the way that this tunnel is designed is that whenever the pressure gets too high, he's just going to be able to grapple immediately back, and he almost hits that shot. That would have been lights out for the defense there if he hits the shot on the Baby Diva. But they get the kill. They get the reset. But I really like this position. And again, it's just Widow is so powerful in this meta. And like the other reason that Widow is going to be really good too is it's so hard to kill Mercy right now. Right? Because Mercy gets permanent self-healing while ever she's flying around. And she dashes everywhere. And she can dash cancel. She has 20 seconds of this. The one way you kill her is you burst her. And the one way to consistently burst her is to have a really good Widow with a clean shot. Yeah, this is the Apex. Apex Challenger Season 5. This was paid September 27th on the newest patch. So Mercy changes are in, Diva changes are in, all recent changes are in. Very good pulse bomb, both supports, pretty much the highest quality you can ask for. Bunny, of course, popping off here. I really think Bunny played pretty well this series. And earlier maps, it was honestly a lot on him. So with Flash having Valkyrie here, it should be pretty easy for them to win the fight. Innovation switches to McCree. Again, same concept that we just went over. Mercy is insane because she can survive by flying around and healing herself because she just stays out of damage distance. Well, how do you fix that? You pick a McCree, you flashbang her when she gets close. You do more damage at distance than Soldier, arguably, especially with the Discord if you hit the dinks. And that's kind of what they're going to rely on, right? But so their flash goes, pops the Valkyrie, pops the res, gets the second one, or res into Valkyrie, sorry, to get the reset, gets the second res onto the Hog, who ends up killing the Tracer, Xavio. Really unfortunate from him. Innovation trying to get this kill. I think he does, if I recall correctly. He gets the kill on the Genji, right? No, Genji just runs through him because he's Mercy pocketed. They res this. It's an interesting res. But they end up getting it. Get the pick on the Diva, and then they get the pick on the Zen. Push forward. Diva Bomb was solid. But it's not enough, right? They got too much momentum. And I really like McCree in this patch. I really honestly feel like McCree is going to be a lot more popular than he is in the status quo or in like the current patches or tournament patches. The current patch being this patch. I think that McCree offers a lot against Mercy. I think McCree offers a lot against flankers, of course. And I don't know, there's something about the Koreans that have always been pushing McCree over Soldier a little bit compared to the West. And it's probably because of their not obsession, but they really do like the pick potential, and I believe the CC is another major reason that they really like the McCree, because control is huge in every other esport. Control like defines every single meta. And it's just so funny yet that Overwatch hasn't entered a meta where it's pure control. Like it's about dive and effective kills and executions. It's not about CC. It's not about manipulating the plays or positions of your opponents with abilities, right? It's a lot more about your aim, your diving potential in the current iteration. So, but this is a very deceptive push, right? Mercy res comes in, Flash is going to get Valkyrie, resets, get the second res, and then they're going to actually stabilize off of the back of the blade here. New Mercy, man. It's pretty insane, right? Because like the thing about old Mercy is that you hit that res, sure, maybe you get 2 or 3. Right, but then how do you keep your team alive after it? You don't. You pick one person and you keep them alive. With a New Mercy, you target the most central person, press left click, and everyone comes out of res getting healed. It's pretty awesome. And even if you do get threatened yourself, of course, you always have the option to become a pistolier god and just, you know, shoot them down. So, New Mercy is in a great spot. A little bit overtuned in my opinion. I think if they tuned her down just a little bit, I think that she would be in actually a really good spot, because I do feel like it takes more skill to play Mercy just like straight out. And I am always a big fan of balancing towards the idea that skill is very important, and every hero should have, not every hero should have a low skill floor and a high skill ceiling. Some should have high floors, high ceilings. Some should have maybe a little bit lower floors, a little bit lower ceilings, whatever. But there needs to be an inherent skill involved in every single hero that is outside of the general skills necessary to play the game. Before, Mercy was all about healing one target, you know, getting that res off, but all of the skills were situational awareness and game understanding, things that were not intrinsic to the hero, or intrinsic to the hero, but intrinsic to the game. And New Mercy, yeah, still flying around, kind of its own thing, movement. But movement is also intrinsic to the game itself. So I think the new changes give Mercy a level of ability to change the way you play the game, and to actually, what I was trying to go with this, have some skills that are intrinsic to the hero to make the hero better, right? Not only with the more movement now because of Valkyrie, but mainly because of your ability to also be able to bust out the pistol and actually get pretty big kills. I don't know. We'll see. They made it feel like Mercy has so many more choices when you're playing her. So, besides that rant about Mercy, you have to wonder what ends up happening here with Lunatic Eye. So, they're going to try what they should have done, or what they should be doing the entire time. Just trying to play a Widow versus Widow. You remember that BSG had a really hard time breaking through first, primarily because Bunny was in a really good spot, entrenched far back, able to shoot down main. Whenever they engaged upon him, Mercy was on him, boosting him or healing him. He was hitting headshots, of course, and landing critical ones, not only on the Winston diving in, but the other Widow, Tracer, etc. But the way they broke it was the pressure of their own Widow, plus a Diva Bomb that got a lot of value. Now, if you look at Lunatic Eye right now, they have the lineup to do that. They have the Widow to create the counter pressure. They have the Genji to really get aggressive, get in the face of these squishy backline heroes. The Widow, the Zen. I would prefer Tracer, but side point, they don't like the way that this ends up going, and so what they're gonna do is they're gonna switch to almost like a weird pseudo deathball strategy, and they're gonna get full held. And I have to wonder why they think that this direction is better than the direction that BSJ goes for, which is the direction that they start with, too. Keep in mind that they are starting with the Widow. And don't get me wrong, innovation, you can already see, 2 last picks have been absolutely incredible. He's hit very, very thin windows to hit headshots. Very clean, though. Dueling Bunny over here, making sure Bunny can't do much. Bunny, gets him. But Rez resets that situation. Bunny goes down to a counter dive. Gotta love the res situation, just the tempo res every single time. But yeah, Valkyrie. And now what do you do, right? Because if Bunny is under pressure, which I believe he is at this point, Flash should be able to freely fly around. or not Flash, sorry, Slime should be able to freely fly around and be able to get plenty of healing off. And that's pretty much what ends up happening. And Xavio, the other thing about Tracer, I guess I'll go on that point now. The reason I like Tracer more than Genji too is Tracer offers more tank damage. Tracer is amazing at shredding D.Va and Winston's and building Pulse Bomb off of them. Her target finishing potential is just in general better. Deflect out of Innovation. I'm pretty sure that's a deflect. That was a bit awkward. Flash goes down as he gets chased by the Winston. But the other thing is Tracer's ability to finish targets does not require her to commit her life nearly as much as Genji. And so now Bunny switched to Soldier, and I just don't see the thought process here, right? Because if you're going to go for an aggressive dive and this whole idea of splitting, which is kind of what also BSJ took the point, right? When they took the point, D.Va bomb up the center. I believe they had the Widow off to the right, and they had some heroes fighting off to the right, right? Or to the left was the Widow, and to the right, right? And so they have this engage, split, clean as they come in together, and they get that pinpoint precision that they want, that they need to be able to take out the Widow. Now you look at Lunatic High's setup, and you say, well, they kind of have some dive. The Winston and the Genji can come in from opposite angles, and they're maybe going to push up the main with this Orisa and this Soldier. But like, what's going to stop those heroes from getting eviscerated by Tracer coming in from the side, or D.Va coming in from the side? Not alone that, D.Va can absorb most of the impactful damage that's going to come out during the heat of the moment from the Soldier in the middle of the fight. So I just feel like this lineup that comes out from Lunatic High is a bit more desperate and a grasp at straws rather than actually them understanding what they need to do to beat BSJ in this situation, because BSJ showed what you need to do. And if anything, I strictly disagree with the switch to a resub versus the switch to D.Va. And I mean, the thing is when they fall apart with this kind of setup, it falls apart hard. The nice thing about dive setups is that even if you lose the fight, you can keep one or two people in the back line. Kind of cycle some time, maybe get a pick, force them to chase you if that's the case. Hold aggressive positions. In one of my recent reviews with Envious, I talked a lot about how despite them losing fights, they're consistently pressuring forward when they can, when they have unique reasons to be able to. And that allows them to constantly push the cart, keep the cart where it is, and apply pressure to the defense and never let them get set up. And now they even switched the Hog, right? And the Hog kind of does stuff, but at the same time, it's like the Hog offers very little in what they're having troubles with, which is that they're having trouble getting into the fight to be able to actually take it effectively. Because the Widow, Innovation hasn't even been shot at besides when we saw the Hog shoot at him and go for the hook. Innovation's gotten 2 picks this fight, is free farming an ult. He used it the fight before this, and he's already 60% in. He's missing some shots now, unfortunately, but still, it's right. Like you can't be putting yourself in a position where you're letting somebody free farm. If you do, you're gonna get torn apart. Innovation pops off, and they're gonna end up losing this point, and it goes to the game 5. And I definitely think that Lunatic High had a very clear understanding of what to do when the game started, but they seem to switch off of it. So. Very interesting decisions coming out of Lunatic High. But that being said, new patch, Widow is feeling very good, looking very good. Widow definitely fits the 2 maps that I reviewed though, so keep that in mind. If you are going to be thinking about playing Widow in some of your games and such, we'll leave it there. Because Widow honestly is also, you have to hit the shots. That's the big thing with Widow. If you're not hitting shots, yeah, you're scaring the enemy team with your sightlines, but you have to also be actually having the backup to that threat, right? If they know you're not getting kills, then they won't be so scared of you, and they'll probably aggress on you, and you'll probably just end up feeding. So with Widow, it still, of course, comes down to ability to hit shots. But at the professional level, I definitely think we're going to be seeing a lot more Widow on maps where it fits. We're going to be seeing a lot of Mercy, obviously. She's very strong. Just the amount of impact she can have in a fight with res into ult into res into healing the entire team, amping the entire team, even finishing off like a Pharah who's barraging, whatever it may be. Mercy has a lot of different choices. And the big thing that I didn't talk about too is that you saw the meta, quote unquote, developing here, is that you run a Zen with your Mercy. Why? Because when your Mercy is in Valkyrie, you throw an orb on her. And how do you kill her, right? She's self-regening and she has an orb on her. And she's flying outside of damage drop, so that your hit scan heroes take less, do less damage to her. She can juke behind corners, dash around, And then this whole lineup as a whole plays very aggressively well together, right? Because the Mercy can sit back with the Zen if she needs to. They can heal each other very effectively. You can keep your tanks alive, but you also have that damage that you need with the Discord. And there's a little added bonus to this comp. Back in the day, there used to be a mess with a Widow in the Korean scene where they would run Mercy, Zen, Widow. And those three together, if you Discord and amp the Widow and shoot the Discorded target, it insta-kills any 200 HP target. So there's some like really nice synergies in this composition, and I like it. I like it a lot. I think that BSJ is a really good setup. They ended up losing this series to Lunatic High, but they still made it to the second round robin, so we'll be seeing them there. And honestly, I think that this team is kind of like a dark horse of the tournament.